All right, diving in today, folks. We're looking at something kind of interesting, how to explain, well, anything really, to someone super smart.
Hmm. Yeah. Sounds a little counterintuitive at first, right? Like, shouldn't they be the ones doing the explaining?
Yeah, exactly. But I think even geniuses benefit from like clear communication. Stuff that's targeted, respects their time, efficiently gives them the info they need.
That's a good point. I mean, when you think about just how much information is out there
Mm.
and how complex it is, even someone with, a really powerful mind needs clear pathways to understanding. And that's what we're exploring in this deep dive, where we're looking at these notes, excerpts, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, it's a real mix. And for our listeners, and I know you guys love getting to the heart of things, this should be really useful. Honing those communication skills, making sure you're having the biggest impact no matter who you're talking to. So let's dig in. This source material, it's fascinating. It's like snapshots of thought across a bunch of different topics.
Yeah.
We see these condensed notes, things like, hey, Carrie, hey,
Yeah.
hey,
Yeah.
almost like capturing information in its purest form.
It is interesting, isn't it? The emphasis on brevity right off the bat.
Yeah.
Even without knowing the specific context of these snippets, the format itself, it suggests this real preference for conciseness.
Right, right.
And when you're dealing with someone who processes information really, really quickly, there's a real advantage to, as you said, no wasted motion.
Exactly, exactly. And I think this leads to an interesting point. We're not talking about dumbing things down, right?
Right.
Because clearly a genius is going to grasp complex ideas quickly, but why is conciseness still so crucial when you're explaining something to a genius? You'd think they could handle, mountains of detail.
Well, I think there are a few key reasons. One is simply respecting their time. Highly intelligent individuals often have a ton of different interests and demands on their attention. Being concise, it signals that you value their focus. You're not wasting their time, and you're delivering that core information directly.
Okay, yeah.
And secondly, it helps to avoid information overload. Even the most capable mind can get bogged down, right?
Okay.
By unnecessary details or convoluted explanations. Conciseness ensures that their attention stays laser focused on those key insights.
I see, I see. So maximize signal, minimize noise.
Exactly.
And looking at how these notes are structured, the way they're written, they're dense, sometimes abbreviated, it feels like an attempt to capture information as efficiently as possible.
Precisely. It's like the note taker is filtering out anything that's not absolutely essential. It's prioritizing the core of the idea. And this actually brings us to another important principle:
Okay, what's that?
understanding your audience, even when that audience is, a genius.
Right, right.
It's so easy to assume that, well, someone who's highly intelligent must know everything about everything.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's almost never the case. You could have a Nobel Prize winner in physics who's completely lost when it comes to, say, ancient Sumerian cuneiform. Their intellect doesn't automatically give them expertise in every single field.
Right. Geniuses have gaps in their knowledge, too. They might be experts in one area, but total beginners in another.
Exactly. And this is where the value of starting with those fundamental principles really comes in. Even if it seems basic to you, establishing a shared foundation ensures that you're both on the same page.
Makes sense.
It's like, imagine building a skyscraper.
Ah.
You need that strong foundation for everything else to stand on. And we see hints of this in the notes, too. You'll find these seemingly simple concepts jotted down next to much more complex ideas.
Ooh, interesting.
It suggests that the note-taker recognized the value of those fundamentals. They're like mental anchor points.
Yeah, I see that. So as I'm looking through these snippets, one thing that really jumps out at me is the practical focus of some of them. For instance, we have this I mean, we don't know what it means specifically without more context, but the structure itself, it suggests a sequence of actions, a process,
Yeah.
or maybe a set of parameters.
That's a great observation, and it really highlights this preference for actionable insights rather than just abstract theory. Even someone who's capable of profound theoretical thinking, they appreciate knowing how to actually apply that knowledge.
Right, right.
It's about giving them that so what answer. You're helping them take that knowledge and put it to use.
And the fact that we see hints of so many different topics in these notes, it makes me think this person was interested in knowledge that could be used in a lot of different fields.
Absolutely. It's not a siloed approach to learning at all. And this breadth of interest actually highlights something else a skilled communicator can do.
Oh, that's that.
Synthesize information. Draw connections between things that might seem unrelated at first glance. We see this in the notes, where you might have abbreviations or phrases jotted down next to each other that don't immediately seem connected. But there's an underlying effort there to bridge those gaps, to find those unifying principles.
Now, this is where it gets really cool. A skilled communicator can help a genius make connections between things they already know, but in new ways.
Exactly. It's less about giving them brand new information and more about helping them see those connections.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Those aha moments. They often come from a fresh perspective,
Yeah.
a new way of synthesizing what you already know. And this is valuable even for someone who's deeply knowledgeable in very specific areas.
It's like giving them the missing piece of the puzzle.
Exactly.
And for our listeners who, really value efficiency and clarity, another thing you want to avoid is feeling overwhelmed by information. And I think that's another key consideration when explaining to a genius, respecting their cognitive capacity. Just because someone can process a lot of information doesn't mean they want to be bombarded with a poorly organized thoughts.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Even exceptional minds have limits.
Yeah.
And poorly presented information, even if it's accurate, can lead to cognitive fatigue.
Yeah, totally.
So structured communication, a logical flow, these things are super important. And while the notes we have don't give us a clear picture of the note taker's overall organizational system, the variety of notation styles we see might even suggest a personal effort to structure that information effectively.
It's almost like different tools for different thought processes.
Exactly.
And I think clear organization, even if it seems simple, shows respect for the listener's ability to process information. You're not just dumping a jumbled mess on them.
Mhm.
You've taken the time to present it in a way that's easy to follow.
Absolutely. It's about optimizing the flow of information, not overwhelming them with a fire hose of data. Now, our source material is, as we've said, quite dense, and it doesn't really have much in the way of humor. But I do think it's worth mentioning that even serious topics can benefit from a little bit of lightheartedness.
Yeah, I agree. Humor can help keep things engaging, especially if you're dealing with complex information.
Exactly. It can ease tension, make things more memorable. But of course, it needs to be appropriate to the situation. You don't want to be making jokes about something sensitive.
Right, you need to strike the right balance.
And finally, I think it's important to remember that genius isn't a one-size-fits-all concept. What makes one person brilliant might be completely different from what makes another person brilliant. So effective communication really requires tailoring your approach to the specific individual you're talking to.
Which brings us back to all those different topics we see in these notes. It really emphasizes the need for a tailored approach. What one genius finds fascinating, another might find totally boring.
Right. It's about understanding their specific passions, what makes them tick, and then adapting your communication style to match that.
So to sum up our deep dive into explaining to a genius, we have a few key principles. Be clear and concise. Remember that even geniuses have gaps in their knowledge. Prioritize actionable insights over pure theory. Leverage the power of synthesis. Communicate respectfully and avoid information overload. And tailor your approach to the individual.
That's a great summary. It really boils down to understanding your audience and their needs.
And now for our listeners, a final thought. Think about a time when you had to explain something complex to someone you considered very intelligent. How might applying these principles have changed that interaction? What assumptions did you make about their existing knowledge?
It's always good to reflect on our past experiences. By looking at those interactions through this new lens, we can identify areas where we can improve our communication skills. And not just for communicating with geniuses, but with everyone.
Absolutely. Clear, concise, and understanding communication makes every interaction better. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.